trees and the flowers grow. So long, oh my love, will I love you so. Today, tomorrow, and forever. Today, tomorrow, and forever.
Everybody get up.
Good Monday morning, and thanks for joining us. I'm Sissy Figglestaller, and you're listening to Sissy's Social Circle. So if you've been listening for a while, thanks so much for coming back and tuning in to us. If maybe you're switching the stations and you just landed here, stay a while because we've got some great, interesting topics to talk about today. In the studio with me this morning is Madia Swycord, and she has just opened the Chattanooga Yoga School, and she has several other things to talk about, mindfulness and whatnot. Madia, I just met her. And the yoga community in Chattanooga and in Cleveland is a very small community, and but everyone is very supportive of one another. And there are just a handful of people who have been doing this for a very long time, and so they're sort of the experts amongst the rest of us who may be just beginning our journey. And Madia is an expert, I would say, because I've heard her name for years. Mm-hmm. So I'm so thankful that she found her way to Cleveland. And Madia, have you been to Cleveland before?
Yes, I have.
Oh, yeah. So she said she had a hard time finding it this morning. I was telling her, well, it's beside the Bald Headed Bistro. And she said, I never come to Cleveland. So I'm so thankful she found her way here today.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, I've been to Cleveland. I have. But it is funny how we get in our little place. You know, Chattanooga is where I spend a lot of time, downtown. I mean, when I travel, I travel. Like, I go far out.
Do you teach at conferences and whatnot?
I haven't been doing that as of now, but the Southeastern Yoga Conference is something that Jessica Ewart and I both we're the co-founders of the Chattanooga Yoga School, and we will probably be getting involved with the Southeastern Yoga Conference probably soon. But I haven't currently been doing that.
Madia used to own a yoga studio, one of the first in Chattanooga, and you said it was on the south side?
Yes. And it was really interesting because I was so attracted to the vision of what Southside was attempting to do, the artist and the kind of just revitalizing that area. And when I started there, there was really very little happening, and it was exciting to me in a way. And I opened the studio on the Williams Street, across from the Camp House that's there now, which is a coffee shop. And it was in this little back corner, and there was nothing going on around, and it was really a really exciting time because it was thriving in that tiny little corner of Southside.
Well, I remember with Southside Galleries, and there was Bellies and Babies.
Yeah.
And then there was the Southside Grill. Was it the Southside Grill?
Southside Grill, that's exactly right.
It was really good.
Yeah, and that'd been there for quite some time. Yeah, that was one of the one really big names back there. But it has changed so much. Southside is really coming along.
Yeah, there's all kinds of things down there now. And just it's funny because Chattanooga, when I was a kid growing up, we didn't go downtown.
Right.
It just was not a safe place.
Right.
It just there was nothing there. And then I don't know how old I was whenever they opened the Tennessee Aquarium, and that sort of like was the catapult for so much development and so many other things opening up, and then the Creative Discovery Museum and all these other great restaurants and places. So it's just funny because as a teenager, then we would go to Riverbend, but when I was younger, we never went downtown. There just was nothing to be done down there.
And I think it's interesting, and I don't know if this affected me or not, but being that I'm not from Chattanooga, was born in Gainesville, Florida, and moved here in my 20s. So I didn't have as much of the background of those thoughts, the areas and what was okay to be and okay not to be. And
it's sort of like right now St. Elmo is thriving, and back when I was a kid, and no one went to St. Elmo because it was you could find a dead body somewhere laying in a dumpster. Right. It's like that's not really a good area, but it just slowly but surely it's being revitalized. Yeah. It's not as dangerous or crime ridden as it used to be.
Well, like North Shore, which was North Chattanooga is what I called it. Now it's North Shore, but that had the same kind of reputation on some parts of North Shore were really supposedly not okay.
And of course, now people say, I wish I had bought several houses
yes.
and I could have made a lot of money flipping
right.
those houses on the North Shore. So what brought you to this area?
Well, I moved here originally because my father lived here. And I grew up in Gainesville, Florida with my mom. And I came here just to visit. And I thought Florida and Chattanooga, Gainesville, they're very different. This is like different countries when I moved here. So when I came here, I was really interested and attracted to the geography. I was really, because being from such a flat state, and I started seeing all this beautiful countryside. And then I started to find it really interesting place to be. And I started going to school and just to have some productivity. I just ended up going to university here. And I just kept taking it month by month, year by year, and it just kept getting longer and longer.
And your mom said, when are you coming back?
Yes, she did. She would have preferred that, but she also wanted me to be happy. And I think the mountains are more, Florida is my home, where I'm from, but this has really now become where my heart really is. It's really a wonderful place to be.
When did you get interested in yoga?
Well, I've always been interested in mind-body medicine, or in my teens, I read a book called The Biology of Hope by Norman Cousins, and my mother was an oncology nurse. And he coined the term psychoneuroimmunology, which was back then, which is about 30 years ago, was a really forefront concept that the mind could affect the body and the healing process. And he even said, laughter increases T-cell count. And I thought there's got to be a better way than radiation and chemotherapy, which I watched my mom deal with, as a nurse. And so I started reading books about this influence that the mind had on the body. And that's really what was the seed of my direction forever. So I started writing papers when I went to college on psychosomatic illnesses. Then I got a degree in exercise physiology and psychology. Then I got, a certified personal trainer, and then a yoga, and then a licensed massage therapist. So I just kept adding these things that all work together. But yoga had the elements of dimension. So it had the physical, but it also had all these other layers. And this kind of ties me into the Hakomi that I'm working with. It's like Hakomi is a training I'm doing in Asheville that means, it's a Hopi Indian word that means where do I stand in relation to all realms, which means our mental, physical, emotional, spiritual selves and how they integrate and how we're separating them. And that's what's causing a lot of dis-ease. Disease.
Do you find that it sort of falls somewhat similarities with Ayurveda as far as finding a balance?
The body, the body types. I think there's definitely.
Balance.
This is what I think is interesting is there's so many ways to say the same thing, and that's what we're finding out.
Right, and one's not wrong or right. It's
Correct.
just really finding what speaks to you.
Yes,
and how you find that in your own life
and how we process it. Yeah.
This morning, Andy, my husband and I were talking, and it's funny how I feel like with every year that goes by, there seems to be a buzzword of the year. Back when I was in pharmaceutical sales, the buzzword was synergy.
Yeah.
We need to synergize.
Yes.
Get the groups to, we need to create synergy here. And of course, I just wanted to shoot myself every time they said that in a meeting. And then a couple of years ago, I felt like the buzzword was authenticity. I want people who are authentic, and I want to see authenticity in something. And I feel like just the last few months, I've heard a lot about mindfulness. And even in one of the magazines I just received, I don't know if it was Natural Health or a Yoga Journal, on the cover, it said, creating a mindful practice.
Yeah,
and I just thought that's a buzzword for this year. And then when you said you were doing mindfulness training, I thought I want to hear more about this.
Yeah. You're right. It's really interesting because before something becomes it's really ironic. Something has a lot of potency, like synergy that word is a very potent word, but then all of a sudden it's just overused.
Yeah, you don't hear it as much as you used
and
to.
It's funny to me because I have the same response. I've been interested in mindfulness a long time. Like it's been part of the way I teach yoga. That's probably what some of my students would say is that's the way I teach. And I've been doing it since I started, which is being present, being mindful, are you here now? Are you really here? And now it has the word mindfulness, and I'm feeling the same thing. I'm like, oh, here we go. This is really getting, commonplace, which is good on one hand, but we don't want to lose the potency of it, like where we kind of think, oh, there's that word again. You know what I mean? But
exactly,
it's interesting and ironic, but yeah. So the mindfulness I think it is the word of the year. And I think it's coming up here as something and I'm glad that people are starting to notice because I do think that it is going to affect the level of joy and contentment. And what I'm noticing is that in the yoga realm and with anybody who aspires to be the best that they can possibly be, Another aspect is just accepting the brokenness within us too. So it's like we have these separate parts and we're human, but just because we're a yoga teacher doesn't mean that we're perfect. Or as someone who's attempting to lead the way, we can still look and reflect and show people the humanness, but we're still aspiring to take these parts of ourselves and love them, the different places.
Have you read Debbie Ford's book, The Dark Side of the Light Chasers?
Yes, we have that on our list in Chattanooga Yoga School. That's one of our texts.
Book.
Yeah, it is, because it is. It's right. Once we start getting closer to the light, then all of a sudden we're like, whoa, the mirror of what we're looking at. Like, oh, I just did. So it's really interesting to see that and become more compassionate towards ourselves as we aspire to be better.
The book was so good because it was about, she talks about embracing all of the so-called bad qualities and your good qualities, finding an equal balance with the both and embracing everything to realize that maybe some of those qualities you thought were bad are actually good in some circumstances.
Yes.
Maybe you just have to downplay them a little bit and use them when it's needed and in a good place. She, if you remember her talking about, she was in a conference and one woman, she stood up and she said, you know what, you're a... You know, you're a BITCH. And she said she couldn't believe she called her out on it. And she said, yeah, I am. And that's something that I've been trying to put away for a long time. And she said, well, what about if you're under construction with a house and you're on a time limit and you have to get things done and the construction workers are not meeting their deadlines?
Yeah.
What are you going to do? And she said, I'm going to get in their face and I'm going to let them have it. And she said, then that gets them moving.
Yeah.
So, you were, whenever to get the job
That's
done.
right.
But don't you think that is a benefit? And she said, yeah. And she said, well, there you go. Those qualities that you find that are bad are beneficial at times.
Yes. It's when we need discernment. We need to pull out our discernment and know when that line is. You know what I mean? And be able to pull it. But that is a beautiful thing to be able to say, whoa, I thought this was not attractive for some reason, but it is. It's attractive in a certain situation. So that is really cool. And I think that's the mindfulness term that we're using also is bringing the light onto this, what I'm saying, these parts of us, because we're attempting to be, when you're attempting to be the best that we can be, sometimes we lose it in this perfection. And the perfection is not, in my mind, is not as attractive as seeing the brokenness and putting it together and making it the best it can be. Do you see it?
Right.
You know?
It's true. And sometimes, like with the beginning of a new year, we make so many New Year's resolutions that we're going to be better and we're going to we're going to have more patience. We're going to love more freely. We're going to do all of these things. And then January 5th, it's all out the window.
I know.
And so you say, well, I just can't be perfect. I just can't do it.
Right. That's right. See? And then we
give
lose
up.
it. Yeah. And I think we're hopefully seeing that's not, we don't have to give up. We can just say that was a hard day, or we fell off. We're going to try it again, or also look at what we're doing as, hey, there's some interesting things I'm learning. This is what the Hakomi training I'm doing, the body-centered psychotherapy. For me, it's a counseling. I pull it into the massage therapy that I do in private sessions. But it really has that element of saying, so what is that's something in you that feels like is not the best that it can be, or is something that you don't see as good, let's say. Was it placed there at some point in your childhood as a protective measure, like you're using something as to kind of help you manage something that may have happened early on? And a lot of this is really lodged deep in the body. And so when we start talking to these places in our bodies, then all of a sudden we're caring for that, letting it surface, letting ourselves look at it with some kindness. And then all of a sudden we're shining more brightly without having to really, we're not pushing it away or saying it's bad.
Right.
We're looking. We're just watching, like, I see that.
When you do the massage therapy, do you talk as you're going through it?
Well, it's very, very unique to each session and to each person. I take them, it's very organic and very in the moment. Like whatever you had today, we would work with. It wouldn't be something I premeditated. But we may spend more time on the meditation, mindfulness aspect and then transition to body work. And the body work may be completely silent. And you're just receiving. And maybe it was something we found in the body during the Hakomi that allowed you to feel deeper connection during the body work. I mean, and then there's yoga. Then there's the breath work and the movement. See, so but it's all done for me in that moment with the person,
How did you get involved with the Hakomi?
Hakomi. Well, it was found very interesting. I was doing some continuing education for my massage because, we're licensed and we have to continue.
Lisa Guerin here at the radio station is also a massage therapist. She's been doing it for years.
Yeah. Well, massage is, I love I love it. I'm very grateful that I have that because it's a really wonderful thing to offer and to be able to do for a living. But as I looked for the next kind of study that I wanted to look into, I kept being directed. As I researched, I kept tangentially going over into these places of body-centered kind of psychotherapy, and Hakomi kept popping up. It kept coming up. Like, you could study this, and I could get credits.
Yeah.
So I did it, and now I'm on a bigger journey. It wasn't just one session. I mean, I'm going to Asheville every 6 weeks for a big, long weekend. And, being in Asheville is a whole different experience anyway.
It is. It's great.
Yeah, it's a wonderful place. Really is. But, yeah, so I'm really learning a lot about that, and it's tying in to the work.
Is there anyone certified in that right now in the area?
No. So it's another one of those kind of on the cutting edge. Kind of like when I opened the yoga studio in 2000. I wish I could recreate that feeling for other people to experience because it was so yoga. I would get calls like, "What are you doing? What is this yoga? Why are you? Yeah. This stuff is weird. Why are you?" And just it was such an anomaly. And now it's just everywhere. And I was doing it was in this little tiny pocket of a few people who really were getting into it. It's really interesting. I think Hakomi is going to do similar. It may not be called Hakomi, but the mindfulness and that kind of thing is spreading. It's going to become less of the alternative.
Yes.
It's going to be more of the accepted, and people are going to see.
I think it's very important as we look around in our society that so many people are on their iPhones and smartphones that they are not really living in the moment, but living in someone else's moment.
Yeah.
And even the people that I often see when they post pictures on Facebook and they'll say, just reading to my little girl right now, enjoying cuddle time. Yeah. And I'll think, but you're not because you're on Facebook and you're posting. So you're not reading and you're not cuddling.
True.
And so it's something that we get caught up in so easily.
Yes.
And if you go somewhere like a playground and you look around, you'll see that the majority of the parents are on their phones and they're just staring at the screen. I don't know what kind of effect it's going to have on our next generation that they're being raised like this to feel as though that they're second.
Yes.
That first comes mommy's phone, second comes me.
Yes, it's
and
so true.
It's one of those things and even at the doctor's office, if you take a moment to look around and in the waiting room in the sick area, I noticed that 9 out of 10 parents are on their phones.
Yeah.
And they're scrolling and they're not doing anything. They're not doing work. You can tell they're just looking, just scrolling, and they've got a sick child laying next to them.
Yeah.
And it's sad. It's so sad.
And it's hard for us, even the ones that are attempting to handle it better. Everybody gets sucked in.
Very easily.
So the awareness, I'm doing that. I need to, it's constant awareness because everybody is so pervasive.
And I'm trying to be mindful because I love Facebook. I love to connect with people. But then I have to think, how many times have I checked it today?
Yeah.
And just being mindful of having limits with myself.
Yes. And I think this is back to that point of dis-ease. The disease that I talked about originally, the psychosomatic illnesses and the manifestation of what's happening in our mind and our bodies. And I think what you're saying is so huge that we're living, we're never in the moment. We're either checking for the future, lingering in the past, and we're scrolling. We're never really taking in what's right in front of us. And I think that it's causing that separation of all of who we are, and it's hard on us. I think that's why the mindfulness is pulling up. I think it's because we're seeing that it's causing a lot of strain. We're addicted to stimulation.
It's true. 10 years ago, I used to sell an antidepressant. It was a hard market for me because there were so many different competitors on the market, and mine was probably 4th or 5th as far as being prescribed. We were indicated for generalized anxiety disorder. Oh, sorry, among other things. I just kicked her. Sorry. And so, so I would go into doctors' offices and I would talk to them. And so I had one that was out in Manchester, and he had been raised on a farm and just a country grassroots, salt of the earth kind of guy. And I can remember talking to him about generalized anxiety disorder, and you need to prescribe more of this. And he said, you know what our problem is? It's not that we give a pill to make it go away. But one of the reasons why so many patients come in now with generalized anxiety disorder is that we live in a society where there are so many choices, and everyone is second guessing the choices that they make rather than being satisfied with the choice that they make.
So true.
And this isn't someone who was so scholarly or so smart,
just wisdom.
Not smart, but just wisdom.
Yeah.
He had so much wisdom.
Yeah.
He wasn't a sharp dresser and a smooth talker,
Right.
but just somebody who he got it. And
Yeah.
I've thought about this now for over 10 years, what he told me. He said, it's sort of like you got somebody this, and he gave me this example, and he was right. I don't think I sold him my product that day. And it was fine because I walked away with food for thought for myself rather than pressing my product on another person.
Yeah.
And so he said, it's sort of like you got somebody that comes in and they decide, I'm going to take my vacation in Key West this summer. And they plan out their vacation and detail, and they're satisfied. But then they go the next week and they talk to their friend Sally, and she said, we just went to the Outer Banks. Oh, it was so fabulous, and we did this and this and this. All of a sudden you're rethinking,
Second guess.
why did maybe I need to go to the Outer Banks. So why did I do Key West? What? Maybe I should change that. And he said, we just have so many choices today that it
Yes.
gives people anxiety. And that seems like a simple example, but it happens in every facet of our life. Worried that we're going to make the wrong decision. And I think it also affects kids who are graduating from high school who now can't decide what they want to do because there's so many choices and they're
Yes.
bombarded and they're afraid to even make a step forward that they're going to make a bad decision.
Right.
So
right.
the mindfulness, I think, comes in play so much because, you're encouraging people to be in the here and the now and in the present moment and sort of quiet the mind.
Yeah. Yeah.
Life coaches, I feel like, too, are
That's right. That's
very
kind of what
good.
that's what I'm pulling it. That's what I'm doing.
Redirect someone.
Yes. Yes. And pausing. Just merely pausing to feel and to get that quiet space to say not what is my brain processing, what all the options, but what is my heart? What is it? And you'll know. That's the thing. Once this slows down, this will tell you. You'll know what to do next. There won't be the anxiety, but we don't slow it down enough to let that happen. That's why people take pills, so that they can force that slowdown, which typically has a lot of obvious side effects. So if you can start to practice it otherwise, I think that's going to make a big difference.
Oh, yeah. And I've realized other things, too, like you have to recognize the triggers that produce the anxiety. And so, people that may have a hard time sleeping at night, well, were you watching TV as you fell asleep, and what were you watching? For me, little things. I can't watch that show, Hoarders.
Oh,
It gives me anxiety. Do you know what show I'm talking about?
I've heard of it. I haven't watched it, but
Oh,
I've
my gosh.
definitely seen the glimpses.
And I watch little to no TV. I would say
Yeah.
probably less than an hour a week.
Yeah.
So I watch little to no because I've realized a lot of it gives me
Goes in.
anxiety. My
Yeah.
husband loves Fox News. He
Oh,
loves it.
right.
He loves Fox News and ESPN. Those are the two things he
Yeah.
watches.
Yeah.
Well, for me, I don't like sports. It's not like
Right.
I hate it. I just don't like
Same.
it. It's
Right.
not enjoyable.
Yep.
And
Same.
and I grew up in a home where there was a lot of fighting and screaming nonstop. So as an adult, I've often said, this is our home, and I don't want to invite fighting and discord and
Yes.
arguing in our home.
Yeah.
And why would I want to do that over television?
Yeah.
But from his perspective, the business that he's in, he feels like he needs to be on top of things
Yeah.
politically, and he needs to know those things. And I get that, and he likes watching it. So I just
But it
go
does get
somewhere
you
else.
go. I mean, there's anger. There's
When I
anger.
hear him in there, and he's watching the Fox News, and he's
And they're yelling and
and
screaming.
and then he'll start talking out loud. Oh, that's ridiculous! I can't believe I'm gonna pass that bill. And I'll say, what'd you say? And he'll say, oh, I'm just talking to myself. So then,
That's
but I'll
funny.
say, hey, are you gonna watch this? And of course, he'll say he's going to watch it because he likes to watch it.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So I'll just go somewhere else.
Yeah.
And I'll just read my book somewhere else.
Well, that's a happy compromise for your relationship.
Yeah, I'm not
have
gonna tell him he
yeah,
can't watch it.
Right, because that's just going to create what you were trying not to create. So it's true, though. I hear you. I'm the same way. I feel the same way about that. Why bring it in? There's enough chances to have discord. Why invite it in? Like, why bring it
Yeah.
into the home? But, there you did a great job of.
Yeah, I don't have to watch those people arguing because I'm
Yeah.
still mad that you didn't shut the cabinet door.
That's
in the
right.
kitchen.
See? Why even add? Exactly. That's awesome. That's awesome.
So it's but for him it doesn't bother his sleeping. I don't think it does.
Yeah.
For me that would if I listen to people argue and rant and rave.
Yeah.
Because like if I think about it, 30 minutes before I wasn't mad about anything.
Yeah.
And after I watch it, I'm all stirred up. I'm all mad and I'm all aggravated and now I can't sleep. So I think I'm not even going to go there.
Well,
I know
here-
what it does to me.
Here's another key term that was one of those words that were used when I was in my 20s. The big thing was the TV was called the social control unit. And so I
Oh,
didn't in my
interesting.
20s, because I was, I was born hippie. Like my parents were hippies, and I grew up in kind of a very hippie kind of environment. But the 20s, I would not have a TV in my house. It was one of those big, like, I don't eat white flour, I didn't eat white sugar. In those days, now I'm more moderate. I'm in the middle. I'm much more moderate about everything, because I think extremism, even in the good name of good, can be too much. But in my 20s, I was definitely all about it. So the social control unit of the TV was...
That's so funny because Jessica Jolly, she has not had a TV since she was 18.
Yeah, yeah.
And she doesn't miss anything.
Yeah.
And I can see that because I really don't watch TV at all.
Right.
And but I don't have time. I
Right.
just realized that I had someone say to me, "You don't watch TV. Well, what do you do at night?"
Yeah.
Hey, I got 4 kids. I'm
There's
busy.
not much time for it. Exactly.
Yeah.
But I do think there's a time and place. Like I said, I'm a moderate. However path you want that fulfills you, take it. But I do think that we try to push things away that we think that make us seem like we're. I don't know. I just think that sometimes if you push it away too hard, it will haunt you.
Kind of
You know
like
what I mean?
food. It's.
Yeah.
I think people fail at diets because they often say, "I cannot eat any junk food. I
think
cannot
so.
eat any fast food." And then you say, "Well, how can?" But at some point, then you're going to go through the fast food drive-through,
Yeah.
and then you're going to feel like a complete failure and go all the way back.
Well, it's just like-
do it in moderation.
Just like the white elephant concept. Don't think about a white elephant. Whatever you do, don't think about a white elephant.
I've never heard this. What is it?
And you're just going to be obsessing, so it's like, let's just take that in the middle a little. Let's just moderate that, So, yeah, it's so true. So, it's interesting. I feel like the Chattanooga Yoga School has been a great, because of what we're talking about. There's the population, the awareness in our communities, Cleveland, Chattanooga, everything around here is coming up. All the yoga studios that are popping up, and now we're bringing people that are interested in kind of what we're talking about and helping look for a path that's a little more fulfilling, a little more contented. Not so stressed out, not so anxious. And so now the Chattanooga Yoga School has really offered, Jessica Ewart and I have really excited about that offering, that we can teach other people to hopefully spread the word, and let's just see how we can be a little more positive about
Well, and I
how
think the
we-
nice thing too is that it's not as, in my opinion, and just from my perspective, from what I see, it's not as so competitive. I feel
Yeah,
like
that's
as
so-
many other businesses, because everybody says the more the better. Then so there's room for all of us,
Yes,
because with the
thank you.
population,
Yeah.
it seems like more and more
Yeah.
people are getting
Yeah.
interested in it.
Yeah.
So how did you guys come together? I mean, I know Jessica's an entrepreneur, and so are you, because you've had your own business.
Yeah, and we
you
come
said
from
this is
different
a need.
angles. Yeah, she's we're different in age, but also because I've been doing 10 years difference in us. But she really has just naturally out of school marketing, and she just has a lot of that kind of business orientation. But I did it. My business orientation came through. I was so highly passionate, and because I had the abilities, it just fell into place. But it wasn't because I was so business driven. So I had the studio for 10 years and have been successful. The end of the 10-year mark was rough, because it was during the economy and the shift in time of when Rowan was young, and I felt like there was huge signs coming down saying, Madia, this is not what's fulfilling you.
Did you
Yeah.
think about selling it?
I did, but that was a point in time in my life where it was really apparent that I let myself get overloaded. I had too much on my plate and couldn't find that quiet space.
Right.
And I didn't, but the answer came. It didn't come in the easiest, prettiest form that I may have liked, but I can tell you today, I'm happier than I've ever been. And if I had had the ability to create space, it would have happened smoother. And I think that's what we all need to learn. It's not that I go back and regret, because I am where I am because of all those things. And I'm really
Right.
enjoying what I'm doing now. More, I think through all that causes me to really enjoy what I'm doing now. So it's been really great that way.
Right. And in the month of January, I think I typically am someone, I overcommit to things.
Mm-hmm.
I had so much on my plate last month, and I there's so much I want to do, and I get a little ADD, and I just dive
Yeah.
into everything, and so I often commit to so much, and then I'm overloaded, and I have no time to do the simple things like
Yeah.
read a book for my book club that
Yeah.
it fulfills me a lot. So
Yeah.
now I'm trying to create more space this month and realize I'm feeling a lot less stressed.
Yeah.
And a lot a little bit, a lot more happier.
Right.
But it's finding that balance. And we often get caught up in this cycle of we want to be so overproductive
Yeah.
or at our peak
Yeah.
that we are just going to be burned out.
Right. And I think this is funny. This is probably a whole nother topic for a different time. I mean, like we could really focus on this part of the yoga, but what I notice as the popularity has risen, that we have westernized it to the point where it's losing some of its what it really was made for. Like what it was developed for. I mean, in that what you're talking about, we're rushing to yoga, we're flying in stressed out, we're
Yeah.
getting in there, and then we're and hey, I'm all about I'm all about pushing hard physically. And I like that maximum, but when you're in there and you're overstimulated with speed, intensity, heat, music, there's where that I like that. See, but that's my senses. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I'm digging it because I'm a push hard kind of person, but that's not the yoga. That's not yoga.
Right. Right.
You see what I'm saying? Yoga's a balance. It is a push. It is pushing, but it's a balance between push and push. Where's the space? And we've just done it. We've gotten it so big and flashy and fast and speedy, and it's just really interesting to me. But we still are benefiting. I'm not saying we aren't benefiting, but I'm just noticing how that happened.
It is true. And different studios have different
Yes.
flavors.
Mm-hmm.
So depending on which one you go to, you're going to find something different.
Yeah.
And I always encourage people that
Yes.
I'll have people who say, I really, they're a very pitta type person, very
Yeah.
fiery, and they
Yes.
need that drive, the type
Yes.
A. And they'll say, I tried that once and that wasn't for me. I like something that's more driven. And I'll say, well, maybe you didn't go to the right teacher
Yeah.
or the right class.
Yeah.
There's like 100 different types.
Yes.
So you just keep trying it
Keep
until you
trying.
find one that you love.
Keep trying, because you can have the intensity. You can still have the intensity and have the mindfulness. It can happen.
Do you normally have a theme to your classes?
Again, that's the same thing as my private sessions. I have an idea when I come into a teacher class. I think maybe we were talking on the phone a little bit about this, but I have an idea of what I want to teach. I might have a theme of a concept or a philosophical statement or an asana, but it just unfolds as I feel the group. I really let it just really unfold as I'm noticing what's happening. But if there is a consistency, it's the mindfulness, it's the presence, it's intense. I like intensity, but I don't do it to the detriment of mindfulness. Like I'm not going to give you intensity where you're not here. Do you see?
Right.
If I see that float, then I go, whoa, come
And
back,
bring it
and then
back.
and then I give them something physical, because the type A's are drawn to my class. Like that's because they want the intensity. So okay, you want it okay, let's sink down just a little bit deeper.
Yes.
And I mean that physically, and I mean that otherwise. Sink down. You're going to get the physical, don't you worry. That's what I love to say to them. Don't you worry.
So
I do a lot of that
kind
kind
of endurance.
Mm-hmm. I say, okay, this may not be what you expected, but check this out.
Right. That's
You know what
funny.
I mean? Yeah. So it's really fun for me as a teacher because I can really feel the people. Like I can connect when they're going, oh, okay, all right, yeah.
Well, it's funny. I have different classes that I teach. I teach one that has a lot of older people in it, and I'll say, "What do you guys want more of? We want more child's pose, and we want more happy baby." And they like the small little things.
Yeah, yeah.
Then I have my other group that I teach. They're like animals.
Yes.
I mean, they're like cut. They're toned. They come in.
You
They're
know
like
it. So
they're
true.
ready to chew
Give
off
it
some
to me.
meat. I mean,
I
they
know
are.
it. No, I know.
And I had so one day I came in and I thought, they're going to get it hard today. So then I started doing a lot of boats, canoes, a lot of core work.
Yeah.
They were sweating and so red faced, and then I felt a little guilty. I felt a little bit bad about it.
Right.
So then when the class was over, I couldn't believe how many of them came up and said, "That was awesome. We loved that."
Yeah.
And I thought, really? Because
You looked like you were. Yeah.
You look like you were dying.
Yes, and they do love it. They do. And I'm looking around the room. I'm going, okay, you guys stay calm. I mean, really. They do. They want it. But as a teacher, it's our responsibility. I'll go back to some of the yamas and the niyamas. And the first one is ahimsa. And that is the kindness. That's the non-violence. So you have to, that's like the umbrella. Like you can push hard all you want. But the minute you're in deep suffering, uncomfortable, yes. I say yes to that. Be uncomfortable. But suffering and struggling? But we all want to do. I do it. I like to push that hard too. That's why I think I'm good. That's why I think I'm good at doing at offering that, because I feel it in me, the desire to push past the edge. That's my nature. And so I think it's good to have someone over there going, ho, wait a minute. Are you real? Is that going to benefit you? Is that going to give you really the result, the ending? Not the, what is that giving you?
Yes, going back to mindfulness and finding your edge. And when you're in a practice or with anything in life, finding your edge and knowing where to stop, not letting your ego take over the situation so that you're going above and beyond for your ego, but going to where you need to go to meet you where you need to be. Yeah. So I do find that in a practice. And I often will tell people, find your edge, and it's not your neighbor's edge, but it's where you are on your mat and what you need. Yeah. But if you feel like something is cracking, stop that. Yeah.
Step back. Something in your body or your mind cracking.
Yes. Yeah.
Like if you're over there beating yourself up going, I think I should do this. Why can't I do it? Why can't I do this? Like that's a time to pull back, because the body will take you there. The body will say, yes, handstand today. Right. The body will tell you. Yeah. It's the mind that says you should do it.
And sometimes I need to listen to my students too. Not everybody is ready for something. I had a class the other day that I was going into one pose, and it was a lot of core work. And I had a couple of people say, "Oh no, we don't want that." I said, "We're not going to do too much of that, I promise." And then once we got up in the pose, I had a couple of them that passed gas real loud.
Oh, that is so funny.
And I felt so bad, and I thought they were the ones that didn't want to do it. That's right. And then they were embarrassed, and then I got a little flustered. I didn't know what to say. Oh. And I just, and I didn't know whether to acknowledge. I didn't know what to say.
I said, that's natural. It's natural. That's natural.
Let's
yoga makes you fart. That's natural.
And then when we lowered all the way down, and normally I would have taken them back up for a few more breaths, and when we lowered back down, I said, okay, that's all we're going to do about that. We're not going to do any more of that.
Yeah, we got that out. We're done.
But I did get flustered.
I know. We've all had some of those kinds of moments where you're like, okay, how am I going to respond to this right now?
Yeah, and and it makes me think back to a few years ago when I was starving, and I was headed to North Shore Yoga, which is now Hot Yoga Plus. Yes. But I was headed to a class, and I couldn't find anywhere. I thought, where am I going to go that I can go through the drive-through? I don't have time to go in anywhere and wait. And so the Crystal was the closest I could think of. Right. So I got a bag full of crystals and wolfed them down. Oh my God. And then as soon as I went into class and sat on my mat, and I thought, boy, this was a wrong thing to do.
That's right. It's so wrong. Exactly. That's it.
And I feel for the person behind me.
Oh, that's funny. Oh my gosh. And then of course you couldn't your practice was affected, I'm sure.
I really worked my core that day because I was holding my core in. Yeah. I'm holding my butt cheeks too. I was scared.
Let that out. That is so funny. It's so true. I want you to come to some of my classes.
I know. I need to, because tell me where your classes are.
Well, I'm teaching at Downtown Sports Barn. That's where the Chattanooga Yoga School is. We do our work there, but I teach on Tuesday mornings at 9:35 and Fridays at noon.
I could do the Friday at noon.
And they're both power. They're power flow, so they're going to be 88 to 90 degrees, and it's. I think I would love to have you in there. It'd be really cool to have you in class.
Well, I enjoy it.
Let you come in,
I enjoy it, and I probably will have that miserable look on my face the whole time. I often do that, but then.
It's a really enjoyment.
It is. Yeah. It is. And when we went through our teacher training, I had one of my friends who people have certain gifts and they may not recognize their gifts. And so I have one friend, Cam, and she was doing the teacher training as part of her certification to be a personal life coach. Yeah. And so she wasn't necessarily planning on teaching. Well, the director of our program, Jessica, we had to teach I believe it was a 20-minute class. Oh my gosh, it was so stressful. Coming up with your music sequence, what you were going to do, and you were assigned a particular posture. For me, it was Ustrasana, which is camel. Yeah. And we had been given our posture about a week before, and then we were supposed to come up with our sequence. Yes. And then the last 2 days, she was going to assign you and where you went in the lineup. Yeah. And so that day, she just drew some names out, and Cam was number 2. Cam had an awful day. She said, I thought about on the way calling her and telling her, if you draw my name, I can't do it today. I could do it tomorrow, but I can't do it today. I'm completely unprepared. Right. So when she said her name, she started sweating over there. And she looked at me and she said, I don't have anything. I have not no music. I have nothing. And I felt the panic in me. I thought, oh my gosh, what are you going to do? This is for your final. Oh, I don't know what you're going to do. So she thought for a moment about how am I going to get out of this?
Yeah.
And then she said, you know what? I'm just going to do it. I'm just going to do it. So she did. And I sat there at the top of my mat and I thought, oh my gosh, Lord, please be with her because I don't know how she's going to do this. She's got 30 people in the room and she's got to pull it out of her rear. She did probably my favorite class of all. It was incredible. And it goes back to her. She was gifted with it.
Yeah.
And afterwards I said, Cam, it was that was the best class. It was so incredibly awesome, but it was so hot. I could not stop thinking about, I'm miserable. I'm hot. I feel like I'm in hell. This is awful. And she said, but Sissy, maybe that's what you need. Maybe you need to feel that uncomfortableness. And I said, I don't want to though. I like, I like to be,
there it is.
Be comfortable.
That's right. That's it. That's
I
awesome.
like to sweat.
That's awesome.
But she said, but that's just what you need. You need to sweat.
Yeah. Yeah.
And maybe I do because I'm more Vata.
Yes.
I'm a Pitta Vata, so maybe I need more. Vata's more like a.
It's the hyped up one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So maybe I need to sweat more. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe I need more balance of that.
Yeah. No, that you don't. I'm surprised you don't like to sweat. Really?
No, I don't like to sweat
That's
at all.
interesting. But you like to push.
I do.
But you like to push, but you don't want to sweat.
I don't want to sweat. I don't like
funny.
to sweat. My husband, he loves to sweat.
That's so funny.
I don't like to
Well,
sweat
I watch
at
the
all.
women in the classes because I sweat like profusely, like the guys, like their sweat just flinging off of me. And I watch a girl next to me and the girls around me are dry as a bone. I'm like, how are they so dry? How do they not have sweat all over them? So you're probably the one not sweating, right?
Well, no.
Or you do sweat.
I
You
will
just don't
sweat,
want
but
to.
I don't like it.
She just doesn't
And,
like it.
I don't like it. And if I've been in one of those power classes that's very fast moving, every day I put sunscreen on my face. So just a moisturizer. So then when I'm in those classes, it starts pouring down and it's burning. It's pouring that sunscreen into my eyes. And then I'm going through my sequence and I'm thinking, I'm blind. I'm miserable. I'm hot. I can't see. This is God telling me I better straighten my life up or this is the way it's going to be forever.
That's so funny. It's so funny, though. That's so true, though, I think. Sometimes when all that's happening, I'm thinking, oh, my God, I'm just going to have to pull it together no matter what's going on here. I've just got to take it, just find my peace within all of that, all of what you described.
I do. I start thinking those Pentecostal thoughts. I thought, girl, you better straighten up or this is what the devil's going to take you to.
That is so funny.
But then I feel good at the end.
Yes.
I feel like
that's
I've had
right. But you were really dealing with your stuff. Like all your stuff. You see what I'm saying? You're like, oh, there's the stuff.
in a blind way where I couldn't see anyone or anything.
I can't see.
And I always forget to bring a towel because I'm never prepared.
Yeah.
I don't prepare.
Yeah.
I'm that person that comes rushing in all with my hair flying around everywhere. I'm so sorry.
I'm the same way. And that goes back to the point with your friend Cam, who, for me, I think it is about, you can download a lot of information. You can download, I spend time reading. And I do take in a lot of information, not just in yoga, but in many places. But when I go to do my thing, whatever it is, there's no papers. There's no like when I teach, even from day one. For me, like what you said with her, she wasn't prepared, but she had been downloading on some level. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So what I'm saying is, to me, you want to give the freedom of that intuition and the gifts that we all of us have gifts within us, to let those gifts rise up without being so tight and structured that we have to do it perfectly or we have to do it in this certain way. And so to me, that's the excitement. Like I said, like coming to here today, to me, that's exciting to not know. Like just to come in. That's what I love. I love the idea that it's not something I know exactly. I have some idea. I did some idea. But to have that place where the spontaneity can happen is where it's all at. That's where it lives.
When I first started teaching, I had 6 pages single-spaced of what I was going to do in a class, and I had it, but it was stressing me out.
Yes,
because I kept having to look at my page.
That's my point.
Okay, they're in downward dog.
Yes.
Now what? Swing your the right. I can't remember.
That's what.
And finding my place on that, and I showed it to Alvaro Vittora, who a lot of people in Cleveland know him, and he is just El Guapo. And
I hope he's listening.
I know. Well, the funny thing is, I didn't know him very well a while back, but several of the ladies in Cleveland always comment about how hot he is.
Oh,
and so I used to tease him. I said, I'm going to push him in the back of my minivan and take him for a ride. And so I think he was back when I drove a van. And so I think he was a little scared of me.
I get nervous.
I know it. And the husbands would say, why do you guys think he's so hot? And we'd say, I mean, look at him. He
I
is.
mean, really. And not just, I mean, but his whole je ne sais quoi. I mean, he's got it going on. Alvaro.
And so I showed him my papers that I had, and I said, this is for my class. And Alvaro his eyes got so big, and he said, are you kidding me? This is for one class? Why do you do this?
Yeah,
I said, I have to know where I am. I have to
Yeah.
know what I'm doing. He said, I don't do any of that. I mean, I have an idea, but I don't write it all down like that. So I've kind of gone back to his suggestion of don't do all of that. And I feel like my classes are so much
It's so
better
true.
because
Yeah.
my energy was that of anxiety and stress, so that I feel like I was transferring
Yeah.
that to my students.
Yeah.
And so
It's true.
I get rid. It's sort of like if you have a speech,
Right.
If you've written down word for word what you're going to say to a group of people, I think it's not as genuine
It's
or
robotic.
authentic.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
they pick up on
Yeah.
that and don't really feel your message.
And that goes back to the humanness I told you about. Like people want to see, I mean, they want to feel like, and they want to feel that humanness, that realness. And they feel it in the way, and when you do it well, and they feel it when you fall off a little. And that's actually a good thing. Like even if you mess up in class, I laugh because I'm like, oh, right leg, I mean left leg.
do
That's
that.
right. Yeah, come on, group, help me out here. This is team. It takes a village. Or just say something really to be like, look, everybody does that every once in a while. But if you don't leave that open, that window possibility where you might mess up, then you're going to be, I think, robotic. And I think you're going to feel the kind of rigidity that's going to happen. And in the Chattanooga Yoga School training, I took out, like at one point, Alvaro, I said something like, Alvaro, come on, let's go up. Let's see what you've got. And I pulled another student up and I said, can you do some low back work? Let's see a low back sequence. No preparation. No, just that. Oh, and it was beautiful. I mean, it turned out for both of them that it was a beautiful thing.
That is really good.
And we in the Chattanooga Yoga School were doing so much of teaching and throwing you out there quickly. Like there's a lot of teaching from day one just to get you in it, feeling it, and and even if you don't become a teacher, I think you learn so much about what we're talking about.
Right.
I mean, it doesn't have to be teaching in front of a yoga class. It can be right here. It can be wherever.
And that's one thing I want to encourage people on is when I started this, I had no intention of teaching.
Mm-hmm.
It was just to have something of my own and something that I enjoyed, sort of like you never stop learning no matter how old you get.
Yeah.
And they say with people who are older and have a great mind, it's because they have continued to learn. So they're doing crossword puzzles. They're just keeping their mind good. And so I feel like at any age we have to have those things. And so I wanted to do the teacher training. A, it got me out of the house for a whole weekend by myself.
Yeah,
That was wonderful.
yes.
And then B, it was something I was interested in.
Yeah.
But I didn't know that I would ever really want to teach. It was just sort of like bettering myself.
Yeah.
And so, and there were so many people, I would say at least half the people in the class had no intention of teaching.
Yeah.
And so if you go to a yoga school,
Yeah.
It could be that you just want to just self-improvement.
Because you're going to grow. I mean, you will grow in an environment like that. There'll be things you learn. They'll be, I think, worthwhile. Yeah, whether you teach or not.
How long does the school last?
Well, it's a 8-weekend. Sometimes I think 8 to 9 weekends. I think I don't know what we're doing next time, but it's 6 months. So ours is a little closer. Like we do every 3 weekends, something like that. You have a long weekend. Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
It was really nice because we had 30 people in our group and everyone came from a different background, and it was such an eclectic mix of people and ages, sizes, and shapes as
Yes,
well.
yeah.
And so, because it wasn't just everybody was in hardcore great shape.
Yeah. Yeah, right.
And so you don't have to be.
No.
But everyone got along beautifully,
Yeah.
and we really became sort of like a family unit.
Yes.
It was wonderful.
Well, I see some of our students, the graduates from this last program we did, and I see them every once in a while on Facebook.
Yeah.
With group pictures together. They're so bonded. Yeah, they're still, even though they've graduated, they still connect all the time, and it really is a neat thing to watch people stay together. And I think that's another level, again, coming full circle when we're talking about non-competitiveness. And yoga hopefully represents, our drive to be the best that we can be, but at the same time not being competitive with others, maybe with just ourselves. So within the group, I think when you see a group of diversity that like you're talking about, it helps us see everybody coming from different places and saying, hey, come in, let's all bond on this one thing we're together on. Doesn't matter how you're looking in it, how I'm looking in it, but we're all sharing this one path. and I think in the yoga community in Chattanooga and around, I hope that I'm so excited that there's so many studios that I like the same feeling. Like I want the different I love that we have all these different flavors of studios. I want us all to represent and walk around saying, let's go. It's not competition like we talked about.
Right.
Like it's not selling, tennis shoes. It's not, selling, this is a whole lifestyle attitude.
Yes.
And so we walk the talk of sharing. If someone wants to go to a different studio or a different teacher, then that's what they need. You don't feel like, oh, this is against.
I find oftentimes I promote in the class. So I'll say,
Yeah.
if you're looking for a class that has more intensity, you need to go to Ashley's or you need to go to Alvaro's.
Yeah.
And, of course, I probably send Alvaro's some of the more kookier people because I sell him on his looks.
So they can just deal with whatever happens. Just look at him.
Poor Alvaro, he's looking to really do yoga in there, and I think probably he gets some gawkers because I'm like, go to his class, check him out.
Oh yeah, that's so funny. And the males have a niche, he's got all the qualities, male, accent.
He does. And when we
just-
first started, though, not feeling the competitiveness per se, but he had advertised, come to my class. I've got champagne at the end. And I said, oh, my gosh, what are you doing? And I said, how am I supposed to get anybody to come to my class? And he goes, got to step up your game.
Yeah, exactly. That's so funny.
I know. I thought, gosh, I need to get mixed drinks or something at the end.
Yeah, anything it takes just to get him in there.
I know, really. Isn't that
You'll do
true?
it.
So now, Madia, okay, so you've got the Chattanooga Yoga School. If someone was interested in signing up or finding out more, what website would they go to?
ChattanoogaYogaSchool.com.
Okay.
And then I have my private practice, which is MadiaStudio.com, 1S. So that's where I do my private sessions, and it shows the events that I'm doing personally, the body work, the Hakomi, that kind of thing. So it's MadiaStudio.com.
Do people pay in sessions or in groups for the Hakomi? Do people pay as far as...
most people are per session, but I do offer group rate.
Where do you do those?
On 901 Mountain Creek Road, the foot of Signal Mountain. I have a private practice in a really nice professional building.
Oh, good.
Yeah, great parking. It's just a really, really wonderful space that I'm in to do my private work. Yeah, and so then I teach the yoga downtown. My group classes happen at Sports Barn. My private practice happens on Mountain Creek Road, and the Chattanooga Yoga School is also within Sports Barn.
You're busy. You're everywhere.
Yeah, and then, of course, Mommy over there.
Yeah, you're really busy.
Yeah, but it's good. And again, learning that balance. I'm getting that balance. And like I told you, there are times when it's too much, and you have to tone
But the
it down.
nice thing is that at least you're every 3 weeks, every third
Yeah.
weekend.
Yeah.
And so it's a commitment, and it's a monetary commitment to do something like the yoga school. But yet at the same time, you really reap the benefits over time.
Oh, it's so stimulating, Sissy. It's so, like you were talking about, just the just of being in that position to not only educate others, but to learn. We're constantly learning. A teacher is constantly learning. You're constantly growing. And so it's very exciting times to be able to be involved on these different angles. And we have the Aspen School as well. We have a yoga school in Aspen. So Jessica Ewart is now in Aspen. So we have an AspenYogaSchool.com. So we do a training there and a training here, and she and I travel. And go.
When will the next school open?
Both,
or the next class?
trainings for both Aspen and Chattanooga start in April. So
okay, so it's right around the corner.
Yeah, so if someone's interested, they want, let me know. They can
What
go.
would be the cost for that?
It's a $2,800 for the full tuition, but there is a discount. So if they register early, if they go to the website, they can register early.
That's a typical cost for a class.
Yes,
like
it
it's
is.
a typical that's
Yep.
mainstream.
Yep.
And it's really better than if you were to do something like Bikram yoga, which is I think typically about $5,000 for the
Yes. And ours is eclectic, like any training here in town. I think that we're gonna give you a foundation, so you'll be able to teach. You'll be exposed to different styles, and you will be registered. We're a registered Yoga Alliance school, so you'll be able to register. You'll be a really certified yoga
I think
teacher.
that's key because oftentimes people will say, well, so-and-so teaches yoga, but they were, I'll say, well, where were they certified? Through Fit One. Well, but they can teach at Fit One, but they can't go to a yoga school and teach because you have to have your
Yes.
Yoga Alliance 200-hour
Yes.
plus certification.
And that regulation and that it's becoming more stringent because there are so many more people out there, and that's something I do want to make really clear. Is very important to get good training because safety is an issue. And that's one of the things that I really push is the idea. That's why mindfulness is important. The more you are out there and you can get teachers that aren't trained properly, and it can be harmful. So you want to know how to align. You want to know alignment. You want to know breath. You want to know presence. You want to know sequencing, you know.
So Madia, if someone wants to practice mindfulness in their day-to-day life, and maybe they're not a yogi, what would be some tips that you would give them?
I think I would really encourage people to pause more, especially when you're feeling overstimulated. And you can do that just about anywhere, even though you think you can't. I mean, driving may be the one exception. You don't want to, but you know, in the office or wherever, you want to pull back for a minute and take a deep breath and close your eyes and maybe just, you know, a simple meditation technique that I find really potent is with closing the eyes, taking a settling into the seat, and aligning with the spine and opening the heart center and taking a long inhale in. And as you inhale, say to yourself, just. And as you exhale, say this. And just do that maybe 10 rounds. And that could settle things down for you.
That's a good idea.
Mm-hmm. And, you know, the mindfulness of that's a meditative technique, but mindfulness and just being aware of what you're doing. Just really paying attention to what you're doing. Like, I am here, and noticing when you're floating into the future. And just notice, be the observer. That's the first stage. It's not necessarily that anything changes, but you're noticing, I'm wandering. Oh, there I go again. Oh, shiny lights. You know, I mean, you know, people, you can see it. You can notice it in yourself and in others, like, oh. And sometimes you have to be aware of time. Yeah. So you have to pay attention to things, but there is a balance.
There is a balance.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just so funny. It makes me think back to years ago when I did, I was in pharmaceutical sales, and we had to do these fake sales things with each other. You know, we have to pretend like we were selling. And this one girl was talking to me, and she was doing her sales pitch on me. I had to play like I was the doctor, and she had to be the sales rep. So she was showing me her spreadsheet and everything she had. She was going to sell me, and she was talking to me, and she lost me after that first sentence. And for a moment there, I forgot, you know, where I was. And I started thinking about what did they say we were going to have for lunch? And I was looking around, and did they say it was Salisbury steak? I can't remember.
She's talking.
Good. Sounded good. It's delicious. And then, she's still talking, and literally, I think 2 minutes passed, and then I looked back, and it was like, what is she doing there? What is she saying?
Right.
Yeah, that sounds nice. I'll write that, sure. And then I felt felt embarrassed. I said, I am so sorry. I just sort of lost it. And she said, I wondered what you were doing. And I said, I was thinking about that Salisbury steak they mentioned earlier. But you know, later on, I thought that was good training for her. Really, it was. Yeah. At first, I thought I had done her a disservice, but really, I did her a favor, because when we went out to the field, it happened every day, all the time.
Yeah. See, that's great. That's great, because everything's happening for a reason. That's not a right or wrong. No. There was learning happening there.
Of course, I probably should have learned it was time to go back on my medication.
Shiny lights.
Shiny lights. But that was just, you know.
Yeah.
That was me. I do think about that. And since that moment, I've thought oftentimes, how many other people have I done that to? And I did not realize it.
But I want to say this. I mean, it's natural that we're going to do that. I mean, that's what I'm saying. I think we all want, it's part of our nature. It's that human thing, that stimulation, that need. But I think we're less likely to wander if someone's being, let me use the word, authentic.
Right.
If you're feeling authenticity, that's very engaging. But when somebody's going, and you're like, what? I mean, you know, it's just, it's the authenticity that pulls you in. It's the other person being present, the other person that's engaging you, that causes a helpful moment of, let's stay present.
Right.
You know.
The engaging and also not being spoken to as much as the giving and receiving and feeling that energy back and forth.
That is so true. That's a whole other topic again, art of conversation.
Yes.
That's a lost art.
Yes.
It really is.
The way we were taught, though, in sales was you hold it up and you say,
that's
you know
sales.
50% of women have breast cancer because blah, 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 blah. And then you continue on, well, let me show you a patient spreadsheet. And that was how we were taught. Yeah. But when you go into the real world, that's not very engaging. Nobody wants that.
Again, robotic.
Nobody listens to that.
No. And that's not a very good technique for selling. It's not. No. I mean, you know, you want to hear what's going on with the other person. Educate them.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but not educate flat. Like, yeah.
Exactly. Well, closing in our
Yes.
show, because we could talk the rest
I
of
know,
the day.
I know. I feel like we
know,
could
I'm
keep
so glad.
going.
I'm so glad
Thank
she
you
was here
so much.
So mindfulness is a keyword that you're going to hear popping up in different
Yeah,
places.
yeah.
If you're looking for something a little bit different as far as body work, meditation, and going deeper within, give Madia a call. And you said your place is on Mountain Creek Road.
Yeah.
And what is the name of it?
It's, Madia's Healing Arts.
That is spelled Madia.
Uh-huh.
And so Madia's Healing Arts. If you're looking to do something different in your life and you want to take a complete 180 and you want to do a Chattanooga yoga school, not because you want to be a teacher, but because you want to better yourself and do something good and enriching in your life and learn something new, look into it. Starts in April. You've got plenty of time now to decide between now and then. And I'm sure you guys offer payment options.
We do.
So you
We're
don't have to
very
come up with that
flexible.
lump sum.
Yeah.
But you want to get in now if you want to get the discount
Yeah.
and get started with that. On that last note, we've got lots more great programming coming up in the next coming weeks. Next week, we're going to have some girls to come on to talk about the masquerade ball coming up with Junior Auxiliary, and that's going to be fun. And that'll be something interesting you'll want to hear about. It's going to be Lucy Reimer, Ashlyn Morlock, and Emily Bullens, 3 girls. I'm sure you know those girls. And 2 more things I want to leave you with. Check out for the recipe of the week. Something I've been making is a lemon bundt cake, and it's from allrecipes.com. Very easy. I make it probably twice a week. My kids are probably going to end up overweight. So, but it's very delicious, and that's something I'm going to make today. It's called a lemon bundt cake, and it's at allrecipes.com. There's your recipe of the week. And your deal of the week, I want to encourage you to go over to the Museum Center at 5 Points. Oftentimes we overlook their gift shop, but I have a good friend of mine, Sarah, and I call her a professional shopper. She knows where to go. And if you know Sarah, you know she's a shopper. She shops everywhere all the time. And it's not necessarily she knows the best deals, but she knows the best things. And so Sarah had gone all over looking for great pottery, and she went all over Chattanooga, just assuming that if you went to Plumnelly or somewhere like that you'd find the best pottery. Wrong. She couldn't find it. The best pottery over there on Edmond Street at the Museum Center at 5 Points. Best, most beautiful local pottery in their gift shop at great prices. Andy bought me a couple of things for Valentine's Day.
Was that from there?
No, it's from Etsy, but I should have gone to the gift shop. I should have gone to the Museum Center gift shop, and I wouldn't have had to wait for it to come in the mail. But with that said, thanks for joining us, and I hope y'all tune in next week. And most of all, thank you, Madia
Thank
Swycord,
you
for coming in.
Thanks so much.